extraordinaire, the gemologist.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Geomologist Presents. So today, later today, I'm going under the knife, surgery for my broken wrist. So, I'm going to record this ahead of time. I have a podcast coming out at midnight tonight, too, with my wife, Amy. And I had one come out yesterday. So yeah. This one, though, is going to be a regular show, more or less. I have some call-ins from Jason Connerly and Joe Salvador, and I'll respond to those. And then I'm going to talk about my week of gaming with my broken arm, broken wrist. So, I actually played some games. It's weird. I reconfigured like where my laptop is, and I'm using my left hand for the mouse, which is a challenge. I try not to use my right hand, but sometimes I default to it, and of course that's not the best idea, as pain shoots up the wrist and arm. But hey, you got to do what you got to do. But I was able to run backtracking, but also played this week. I did start running a Fallout game for some of my home group. This kind of seems to be like a filler game when, just because of the holidays, people haven't been able to show up. So we said, hey, let's play something else that maybe a couple people can play, and Fallout works really well. The Modiphius 2D20 system really works well to me, with a short-handed player group. You can really adjust and modify. Even published adventures have throw adversaries or trooper-type adversaries, X+1, so X being the number of players. So I think Fallout worked really well. And we played Fallout also on Black Friday, since, again, some people were out due to the holidays, but we wanted to get a game going, and people were available, including myself. So we played Fallout by Modiphius 2D20, Fallout RPG, and we're playing through the starter set. And next, I ran Twilight 2000 on Tuesday. Oh, before that, man, my days, it's messed up. So we did finish our Hostile Adventure on Monday, and on Tuesday it ran Twilight 2000, and we've started Pirates of the classic Twilight 2000 first edition adventure, Pirates of the Vistula. But other things are going on too, so I'll get to that. And then, like I said, Fallout was on Friday, and then Saturday I ran Cthulhu Confidential. It's like a 1v1 game with my wife, Amy Lee. And on Sunday, I won't talk about it because of NDA, but we're in the playtest for Cohor's Cthulhu, and that was actually really fun. It is definitely, without ruining the NDA and talking about what is published, we played through a scenario that they gave us, and I thought it was challenging but really fun. And it is well known that sort of Cohor's Cthulhu is like the same verse as Achtung Cthulhu, which is a World War II, Modiphius 2D20 World War II kind of pulp action game. And I think we really enjoyed it. So that was 3 people played. My wife, Amy, Arlen Walker of the Live from Pelham's Wasteland, the products that are out there. I think he's mainly doing just YouTube now. And then Arfed, Darren Green, also played. So it was pretty fun. And that's all I'm probably going to say about it because of the NDA. But definitely be on the lookout for it. It's still in the early stages since it's in playtest. But probably within the next year and a half, you'll be seeing it. All right, so let's get to the call-ins. Our first set of calls are from Jason Connerly.
Carry on, my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more.
Hey Carl, Jason here. Just listening to your latest episode, GM selling player buy-in. The I I'm not going to comment on what I said and you responded to because I think we've had a conversation and like you say, it's preaching to the choir. Um, I know I said railroad a lot in that call, but railroad is not necessarily a bad thing, and that might not be the best term for it. But like you say, I mean, if people agree to play a game with a haunted house in it, then they can't really complain when they have to go to the haunted house. You know what I mean? It just is what it is. Um, Now, as far as the gaming recaps, I thought you did a great job. I'm having a lot of fun in Reaver, really enjoying that. We're gonna start interspersing it with a Palladium Fantasy game, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. Um, but okay, let me call you with another message. I'm really sad that I've been missing the Abomination Vaults and the OSE game on Saturday mornings. Just hasn't fit my schedule lately. My work schedule's pretty hectic, but hopefully we'll get back to some of that. But I'm glad you guys are getting to play. Also, hope to get in one of your Hyperborea games one of these days. Now I've even got all the books. So, and we've got a character. I've got a Huntsman character I made that you blessed off on. So, it's just a matter of getting in the game and playing. So, definitely looking forward to that. It's definitely a question of too many, or plenty of games to play, just not enough time. Anyway, keep up the great work. I will talk to you soon.
Hey, Jason, thank you for the call. Right. Yeah, I know railroad, I guess, is a term that's thrown out there, and sort of railroad being the catch word for pre planned adventures, lead by the nose. They lead you on a certain path. Like we've talked about, some players like that. A lot of other players, and pushback comes from the idea of like a hex crawl, emergent play. Who knows where we're going? Roll on the random encounter table and see what happens, and then roll on the random treasure to see what you get. So, and that's fun. I think it can be. You can put both in the same game and intersperse one over the other, um, and I think that's a pretty cool way to do it. And yeah, I did get my Hyperborea books, my leatherettes. They're really nice. I will probably be wearing my Hyperborea shirt to the hospital today. And Amy says it should be fine. They're not going to steal it or they're not going to get it all bloody. But I just kind of want to wear it. I love the sort of metal like scratchings on it that says Hyperborea. If I put it alongside my Bork Nagar shirt, yeah, you can't read either of them, which is kind of funny to me. So, but I guess they have like little Hyperborea underneath, like a translation, which is funny. Anyway, and they have like I guess like a stylized image of it's probably Sagotha, Su- Sagat, yeah, the Sagat Yaga, so the one of those I can't even say it. One of those elder god things or great old one things. Yeah, so it'd be great to get Hyperborea going again. I feel like it's become a filler game, and then we pushed it back for other things. And I've really enjoyed what we did so far. And I think we're at a pause where the players were kind of recovering from the last battle in the gladiatorial arena. And they might, if they recover well enough, they might go exploring. They found some weird stuff in the under halls of the arena that seems that there's some corruption that goes deep in the city of Port Zangarius. I think I've also gotten like a book, ordered a product that can serve as a substitute for Port Zangarius until Jeff Talanian comes up with a Port Zangarius book or an adventure set there. I know his next big thing is to work on Chromarium, so I hope that doesn't ruin everyone's own campaign Chromarium. But I know he's doing that, and I know like he's got this idea for like a big giant mega dungeon or adventure set in the peak of the world. Um, so I don't know if Port Zangarius is on his radar. Um, I don't know if I am ever inspired. Maybe I can talk to Joe Salvador about it to try to put together something for Port Zangarius since he has done stuff for Hyperborea. I haven't really asked him about that, if he's ever thinking of throwing his hat back into the ring with that. I think he has Fane of the Serpent Goddess is his product for Hyperborea. So anyway, that's pretty cool. I think that's all we talked about. Yeah, it'd be great if we could get to play again. I'm bummed I missed the Palladium Fantasy this week. Um, but yeah, I just wasn't. I had to rest for getting prep mentally for today and do some other things. Um, but next time, I'm hoping next time. And one of these days, we'll get you back into some games that we can play together. All right. Thanks again for your call, Jason. And next up, Joe Salvador.
Hey Carl, it's Joe. Hey man, just calling in to say I was, sorry to hear about you taking a spill in Atlanta. I know the wrist is probably going to hold you up a bit. We talked offline, so I know that hopefully they can get that all set up straight. But really, like, what the heck happened to your nose, man? Like, that's terrible. Hey man, happy Thanksgiving, by the way. And very thankful for you and Jason and Joey putting up recaps of our sessions. I think that's amazing stuff. I think you guys do a great job with it. Yeah, and the game's going pretty well. I think we're at a point where like the game slowly gets weirder, and you guys are. Yeah, I feel like you've been in the dark for a long time, but now you're learning some secrets and have some direction, I guess, behind you. Yeah, man. Once again, man, thanks for everything. I hope you're feeling better, and we'll chat soon. Later. And there was one other thing I wanted to mention, kind of slipped my mind here until I was done recording. The Sholomancers, that is an Easter egg that I don't think anybody caught, actually. The Sholomancers are actually like I don't know if it's a Slavic myth or like a Romanian specific sort of myth, but they were mentioned in Dracula in the novel. So the Solomonari are an established like real world thing. Anyway, I love it, so I'm using it. All right, bud. Later.
Hey, Joe. Thanks for the call and the well wishes. Yeah, the nose is healing actually pretty well. It's only a little bit redness now. The scars have fallen off. Like, it was weird. It was like a strange scaling when I scraped my nose, and then like I said, it's a very interesting combination of skin. Um, it didn't get scraped to the cartilage, which is good, I think. I don't think it did. It would have been worse, right? But it's healing well. The wrist, well, I go under the knife today, and hopefully things will be cool on the other end. I'll let you guys know soon enough. Both you guys, the guys I play with, and players, and also the my listeners. Huh. So right, so Reaver is really good. I really enjoy it, and I know that Spencer of Keep Off the Borderlands doesn't listen to my podcast really, but if he were, he would know that I, like him, love learning about the world and exploration of the world, and I think that's what really attracts me to Reaver a lot is the world building and exploration, and that's kind of as a player what I like to do. I'm not so much into accumulating stuff, although that's nice, but I want to know about the world and how it ticks and how it works. Um, yeah, so that's kind of I guess, my motivation for playing, and I thank you, Joe, for providing that. And I'm glad that we're learning about the mysteries that we've kind of just been blindly pursuing, maybe, and now our eyes are being opened. And as far as Sholomance goes, so I got an Easter egg, but see, I didn't get the Easter egg that you were thinking of the Easter egg, because Sholomance is an instance, a dungeon in World of Warcraft, and yes, it is a school of necromancers, and that, like, if you look on the World of Warcraft wiki, it is definitely like a reference to that I guess Eastern European. I can't remember if it is the right Romanian. It might be school of necromancers and necromancy that was like a secret society or like a group of actual people who delved in necromancy. But in World of Warcraft, they are actually necromancers, and you go into the instance and kick the shit out of them. So yeah, that was that was the kind of the Easter egg that I got. It's pretty interesting. It's definitely it's an instance or a dungeon from classic WoW, and then they revamped it for somehow for some reason for Mists of Pandaria. So like if you do like sometimes they do these time walking events where you go back and do old dungeons, and Sholomance is there with the or Scholomance, however you pronounce it. I think it's Scholomance. I think it's Scholomance. That's how you pronounce it. You go back there and beat things up, get some fat loot, you know. Um, so it's pretty fun. That was the Easter egg that I got, which is funny that you had another Easter egg in mind. Anyway, thank you for the call, and I will talk to you soon. Next up are going to be the recaps. Okay, recaps. I will start with Fallout, since I've done 2 sessions of it. We're running through the starter set, which is actually pretty good. It's a really nice starter set. It has like a kind of a small like rule book, like a I guess a truncated. I don't know if truncated is a word. Like a cliff notes of the main rule book, pertinent to the adventures and the player characters that you get. It has a host of different player characters. The players in my group have chosen the Vault Dweller, the Super Mutant, and Mr. Handy. Mr. Handy being a robot. So they've chosen those characters, and then it has a pad of character sheets that I've let the players transfer so they can transfer from the pre-gen player sheets to their own, make it their own copies and stuff. And yeah, so we ran it with 2 people the first time I ran it, and it's a very simple linear scenario. You meet a guy, you go into a vault, you find some information that could really help the players in the campaign and the world, and then you kind of go from that vault to explore the ruins of the Commonwealth of Boston and go eventually to this place called Diamond City, which is Fenway Park. So in the first meeting, we went through the vault. There's some violent encounters and some diplomatic encounters and a lot of searching. And it uses the Modiphius 2D20 system, and I like it. It's a good incarnation of the Modiphius 2D20 system. It's still got enough skills to make it to give you some sort of the word granularity, but it is free form enough to have some like narrativist ideas, and the rules definitely do not get in the way. Combat is quick and fun, pulpy, dynamic. I think that's what Modiphius 2D20 is going for. There's not too many tags on the weapons like what Infinity I think runs into. So some good tags on the weapons, and it definitely seems pretty brutal and bloody if you get into trouble. So the players are really, they've been a bit wary about getting into combat. Well, except the Super Mutant, because the Super Mutant's pretty tough. So they went into they did the stuff in the vault, and then they started going across the city, and they went to a cache where they fought some ghouls and got some cool loot. And I think that's another fascinating thing about the Fallout is like it has a much. It's almost if you they did this kind of. I feel like it's a callback to the video game, and then you kind of find random loot, which I think is fun, and it's up to the GM to figure out why that loot is there, or maybe it doesn't matter. So they found some very interesting loot, including pieces of like power armor, and you just roll randomly on a table. I think that's what's fun. It's not like it's listed there. It says, okay, you roll your search skill, and you get X number of successes. And with these successes, you can roll on this table or that table. And then the players can choose what table they want to roll depending on the number of successes they get. And there's even some instances if they get no success on the search, they could still find stuff. Not on the cool table, but on another table, they could still find stuff, which I think is interesting. So you give, so depending, like, none of the characters make it, for example, they could roll 3 times on the beverages table or something, which is kind of fun. And they have all sorts of evocative, um, you know, the stuff that you find from the video game, new cola, cherry cola, booze, etc. So, and of course, armor and weapons and ammo, which is very nice. So that was we ended after that, and then in the second session, we were joined by the another player who picked up the Mr. Handy character, and they kind of wanted to avoid an area where there's a bunch of super. And again, it was kind of cool. I thought it was like a both combat and diplomatic type of encounters, and they went into the sewers, fought some. This is not really a spoiler if you played the video game. They fought some Mire Lurkers, including a Mire Lurker Queen, which I thought was and they didn't have to go it's like 2 paths you can go on, which is nice. That kind of for me suggests some like replayability, and then they kind of had an encounter with some super mutants, but they talked themselves out of it because they had a super mutant in the group, and eventually they came to Fenway Park, Diamond City, and they kind of went to one shop, but then it got kind of late, so we decided to stop there. They're going to do some shopping. They're going to do some weapon modification, and there's a lot of rules for that. So like I said, the skills are there, and their weapon mods are there. There's enough granularity for people who like that kind of stuff to improve their weapons, much like in the video game. But the the rules set and the rolling and the combat is good. I really enjoyed Fallout, and I have fans in my group of Fallout, so I think this game we'll play through the starter set and then see where we go from there. I think the players might. Some of the players that I have, they're like, "Oh, it's dirty, stinking pre-gens," which is funny because I have other players in games that like, "Oh, I want you to make me a pre-gen because I don't want to make a character," which is kind of funny. Um, they're they don't bend together though. I don't think one type of group versus the other that likes like the other kind of bin categories we've been talking about in this podcast are whether characters like to be led in the story or like a hex crawl. So those two groups don't really bend together that I can think of off the top of my head. So anyway, so after we do the starter set, they might want to make their own characters, or they might continue with these. And it probably will. Well, I know at least one guy likes his character, so he will probably continue. The other ones were like, oh, these characters are subpar, and I can make them better, and I would have rearranged the stats like this, and blah blah blah. So because you have those kind of players, which is fine. And actually, so it was good, and I think it's a challenging verse Fallout, and the combat can go either way. And I really like that the players were able to think on their feet to fight a pretty tough adversary and use the environment. So that's also in there too, that you can really points out and helps you think outside the box and use your environment, very much like classic games, classic D&D games at least. Although it's not D&D, it's but to think about your environment and see if you can use something to help you in a dire situation. I really like that. So I've been enjoying Fallout, and this is somewhat long, but that's okay because that's 2 sessions of Fallout. I'm gonna pause here. So, Hostel, we finished the adventure. I don't know if I don't know. I have to think about Hostel a little bit, and I think read more about the verse before we continue. So we're running through like there's this bundle of holding, and there's a lot of Hostel products, and I was just running through one of the scenarios in there, and it was less of a fighting scenario, more of a cerebral type of thing. Although I'd say the other one, like the thing that I ran on the station, went really well, and I liked the way it ended. I liked the way it progressed. But I feel like the scenario I ran, the published scenario, was kind of slow. and it was more of a mystery. And the cool thing is, I think the players solved the mystery, um, and I feel like they enjoyed it. We want to continue Hostel at some point, but I feel as a GM, I need to be more prepared about the verse and kind of be consistent. And I think I know what I want to do the next time. And I think I think that also the players, they're not very good at combat, and that kind of is in the back of the mind, or they're communicating that's a little discouraging. There's a lot of whiffs, and that's not fun. They'd rather be more competent. So there is a plan that we might go to straight Traveler, make characters. I had proposed running a pre-planned scenario with pre-gens, but I guess they weren't inspired by the pre-gens. So if we run that scenario, if we run that scenario, they might do it. If it works out, because I'm going to get together either as a session 0 or individually with each character and then run a session 0, and see what they make, and then decide after what they make what kind of campaign we'll run. It might work out that I could do what I was planning with the pre-gens, but it might not. And Traveler is so open that you can do anything. And I feel like Hostel might be a little constrained in that regard because of, like, it seems like all the characters are geared towards, I mean, what they say, right? It's not like it's a surprise that the characters are going to be, roughnecks and be good at mechanics and that kind of thing. Be good mechanics or engineers or, you know, dirt huggers, right? So it's just a strange mix of players. We do have one player, but he hasn't been able to play, who is a doctor, and that might add another dynamic. And as an NPC, you can play an android, but I've kind of said, maybe it's better as an NPC. There's a lot of secrets that androids might have, and they're kind of creepy and scary, and it's more fun that way to play like you know, like an Ash type character, or maybe a bishop. But they've had a run-in with the first adventure I ran. They had a run-in with an android that was not pleasant, and this one, it's been this other android that they've run into in this adventure that I've added in. It's not in the scenario. I added him in. Was just kind of creepy, um, but um, but they solved the scenario. But then they didn't want to stay to figure out or there was a hint of something more dangerous and deadly, and they're like, you know what? We'll just leave you research people here. It's like a research station. Leave you researchers here to do what you do. They took some samples back, some evidence back, and they also, interestingly, I had them recover a couple of androids that were there on the station, much to the protests of some of the the researchers on the station. But I think the android on the ship that they landed on kind of insisted. So that was a kind of interesting hook that I can use in the future. And maybe that's what I'll do, is really, really kind of focus on, not maybe use like a pick things here and there from some of the pre-published adventures, or like encounters, use as encounters, but not as, and develop an overall story. And I think that's what I need to do: sit down and think and develop a concrete overall story and see how far it goes. But they were on the fringe. Now, in theory, they're heading back towards the frontier, um, back towards the Nostradamus, the big mining complex space station that has jump capability, that jumps around. The latest, greatest in the it's not Weyland Yutani, but I think it's Leland Okuda fleet. So yeah, so the game Hostel is more or less Aliens Outlander with the serial numbers filed off. But that was Hostel. It was pretty good. Um, but I want it to be more exciting. I think that's coming from me. But we're gonna, in the Monday group. I don't know if it's Monday Sci-Fi, but on the Monday group, we're gonna take a crack at Traveler and see how that goes. Um, Monday is also possible to do Hyperborea. Uh, the player that's joined us for the regular Monday also made a character for Hyperborea, but I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to fit that game in, but that was Hostile. So our ongoing Twilight 2000 campaign has gone really well. We had a really good adventure session. They kind of took care of things, loose ends in Krakow, the survivor group. I guess they're called the Free Krakow Coalition. And then a lot of the game was spent, but they did some of this on Discord, was spent discussing who they're going to take up down the Vistula to Warsaw to help the captain of the Vistula Queen recover some refugees and I guess presumably bring them back to Krakow, though I don't know how the government of Krakow would like that. But, they could settle in and around Krakow in Novi Huta, around in the area. So while Novi Huta was destroyed by aerial bombardment and nuclear weapons, there is some area around it. There's an abbey and some forest land around it that could be settled by these refugees. So again, a lot of time was spent figuring out what they're going to take. They're taking I think vehicle-wise, a truck, the BMP that they kind of got from the Marauders, and the motorcycle, and the hospital, the ambulance, the Gaz 66 that's been converted to an ambulance. So they're taking those, and then the main characters are going, and I think there's like one NPC per main character, and then there was some debate about which characters they would take, and it worked out really well because in the session the characters that they took were very helpful when problems came up. So and I don't know, this is an interesting question for people because one player did comment that they're not a fan of this sort of lots of NPCs in the game, but I don't know, I like that kind of play. I love it. It's not troop play necessarily, but it's like trooper play and henchman play with hirelings. I kind of enjoy that. I really enjoyed that when I ran Broken Lands. I kind of enjoy that there's not just the players existing sort of in space, but their interactions with NPCs on a regular day-to-day basis, and these NPCs are dependent on the player characters and interact with the player characters. So and even like one of the players is said, okay, well, I'm trying to develop a relationship with one of these NPCs, which I think is pretty cool. So I like that kind of stuff, and I think it helps. It also gives like the player group more punch if situations arise. And then there are things, for example, like my wife Amy's character has her regular driver Hicks, and he drives the Gaz, or in this case when we played when they went off to do some exploration off the river, that he was driving the truck. So I think that works pretty well. So we did do like the first segment of the Vistula when they finally got going. I guess they're leaving behind quite a number of people. I'm still debating, and I propose this to them. So hey, if you want to, because they have like a whole platoon size almost of people, NPCs that exist. I said, hey, if you guys want to take some of those and do something else with them, I'm cool with that. Like for example, they know that the Pope is being held sort of prisoner by a nearby political group run by this ambitious warlord, and they probably want to take care of that the next time, but I guess they're not sure yet, and I guess they felt like the Pope is not in imminent danger, and they also have in their possession what that group wants. So we also haven't finished wrapping up sort of the Operation Restart things, and that is, I don't know if they're taking those stuff with them, or I'll have to ask one of the players if they took that stuff with them, or if they just kind of left it and hidden in their compound. But I know they're definitely taking the Black Madonna with them. I'm sure they figured that they're going to take that with them just in case. That is what the Margrave of Silesia wants in exchange for the Pope. But the Black Madonna is traveling to Warsaw, which is very interesting, I think. And so they're traveling down the Vistula. The cool thing too, there's effectively this is a hex crawl. So, which is a beauty of these classic modules. Krakow the Black Madonna is for sure like an adventure, right? Like an adventure. You even have a mini dungeon crawl. Um, Krakow is like a cityscape. A lot of things are happening in the city. There is a sort of a adventure going with it, but it's more about the interaction with all the factions and NPCs in Krakow, and they've established themselves pretty well. They have like a good in with the leader of Krakow. They don't trust the general who controls the Ormo. There's some intrigue there. I haven't decided how quite I'm gonna play that. So far, it's kind of like tense right now. But the thing is, they have some allies among the sort of police force in Krakow and even the army that the general controls. And of course, Amy's character Kasha is always looking at that helicopter, that hip helicopter that is there, that probably hasn't flown in a long, long time, but who knows? Anyway, so and then on the Vistula, there's two tables. If you interact with people, you can roll your like various interaction skills and get rumors. And there was a cool encounter, sort of random encounter where a couple of people were scavenging in the woods outside of Novi Huta, and they ran into some hunters and they exchanged some things. They found some ramen, which was hilarious, some ramen, but and then there's like encounter tables, so things can happen like while you're motoring, while the tug is motoring downriver, pushing the barge. There's things that can happen, like hazards that can happen on the river, or encounters that can happen on the river, or if you land, there are encounters that can happen along the shore when you put into like a little village, or you see a village on the side. So they went to one village where they were met with a little bit of not outright hostility, but trepidation. They didn't explore that. They went to another place where they heard a rumor that there could be caches of a fuel, and they explored around there. They ran into some Soviet deserter / marauders. They dealt with them pretty handily, actually. And I was having a bad roll day. Fortunately, they were having a good roll day. Well, one of the players was having a bad roll day, but I shot a lot of ordnance at them, and I hit one character, but it didn't do enough damage to hit. Fortunately, most of the characters are geared up. They had body armor. It's a chest hit. So, and then Amy's character had a good day with the shotgun. I think she took down 2 or 3 foes. So, but they did find a cache. They're going to come back later. They marked it. They're going to come back later, but they didn't want to linger around because if there's one marauder group, there's going to be others. So then they know they probably have to deal with some a marauder group there, and they might even actually go all the way back to Krakow and then drive out there to take care of any marauders and gather caches of fuel that they heard about the rumors, and the rumors are kind of true. Then the last thing that they did is they ran into a bridge, and this kind of bridge marks the first leg of the journey, and the bridge is very rickety, and they pass through it really well. They kind of do some things to make sure that we have spotters in the right position, and all the different player characters got to do stuff, I think, which is kind of neat, not just fighting and the like, but a lot of players got to do different things. So they passed the bridge, and now I'm wondering, since it's like damaged and going to fall down, there's a debate now whether they're going to shoot from the BMP's mini cannon and try to collapse it, controlled collapse in a way, as opposed to just letting it kind of slide into the river. The controlled collapse might be okay, and the river won't get blocked. I guess that's the dilemma, that on the way back the river might be blocked. So we'll see how that goes. It was a good session. I really enjoy Twilight 2000 and the 4th edition of this. I think it's really neat. I'm excited, actually, that apparently the Blade Runner RPG uses the same type of system, so I'm excited about that. I kind of like that. All right. Makes it easy, and also easy if I was to do like a dual game with Amy, since she's familiar with the system, and she wants to play like a police. I guess one of the characters, like, you play like it's more an investigative game, it seems, like with all the handouts and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I'll talk about Blade Runner later. But the Twilight 2000, really good. I'm going to pause here, come back and talk about Cthulhu Confidential. So the last game I will talk about is Cthulhu Confidential. It's a 1v1 with Amy Lee, and we ran through A Cable's Length from Shore, which was like a free RPG day offering from a few years ago. with the character Phyllis Oakley. It takes place in London. She's a book hound, or she's a bookseller of rare books, occult, those about the occult. And I really enjoyed the system. It's a kind of it's based on the Gumshoe system. So the main premise of Gumshoe, Trail of Cthulhu, is that if there's a clue to be found and you have the right investigative skill, you will find that clue. You don't have to roll for it. You find the clue, and it's what you do with the clues that makes it interesting. You have a meta currency called a push, and you can, in Cthulhu Confidential 1v1, I need to review the Trail of Cthulhu rules to give you the exact. They're called the same, but they do different things. So in Cthulhu Confidential, you have like a meta currency called push, and the pushes can give you more information based on your investigative skills. So if you want to, you can, push, and the pushes can give you benefits throughout the scenario. So then there's general skills, which is where you roll dice, and you have a number of dice, 1 to 4, where you roll, and then you see if you succeed or not. If you succeed, there could be like a succeed, like it's called there's different tiers of success. There's an advance where you get a really high, nice roll, and that can give you a benefit or an edge. I'll get to that. I'll give you a benefit. Then there's like a hold, which is like kind of a neutral result, but a success still. Then there's a setback, and that can give you a problem. Usually, it's a failure, and it gives you a problem. So leads me to the other interesting part about Cthulhu Confidential. You have these things called edges and problems, and edges are benefits that can help you throughout the scenario when you kind of play them at certain times. When the player decides they want to play this edge, and it can benefit them in a particular challenge, or you get a problem, and problems can be anything from being in debt to if you have this card at the end of the scenario, you're gonna die, type of thing. So they have a wide range, and a lot of them also have like a tag. Since it is Cthulhu, if you see something weird and don't succeed in the challenge, that it overcomes you mentally, then you get this Mythos Shock card, or you can get a Mythos Shock card for being involved in weird things, because I think even Amy succeeded in a task, but because she went a certain way, her character got a Mythos Shock. So I think it went really well. You can recover. You only have a certain number of pushes per scenario, but you can gain more pushes if you, for example, roll an advance off from one dice. If you can roll multiple dice. So Amy was able to roll. She started off badly, like rolling badly and getting a lot of problems, but towards the end she started hitting her stride on her dice roller, and was rolling 4s through 6s, which generally with some of the edges she had accumulated or things she had done would give her like an advance. So I think it went really well. We really enjoyed it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I'm not going to try to spoil the scenario, other than it takes place in London, and it's an investigation on the death of someone like they called them a barrowman, who's like someone who scrounges and scrapes and kind of would bring books to Phyllis Oakley. So I think we want to play this again. I found another scenario for Phyllis Oakley, and then I'll have to think about how to make my own scenarios after that. But Amy, because in the Cthulhu Confidential book, there's 3 other characters, and I guess the Phyllis Oakley character was kind of the free RPG day, and then there's another scenario that you could get on the Pelgrane Press website that you can run for Phyllis Oakley. But Amy liked the character, and there's a way to advance, and I think it's pretty neat. A neat system. It's fun to play one-on-one. I think we had a really good time, and I do recommend, if you can't get a big group together and you have a good relationship with someone that you play 1v1 with, I definitely recommend Cthulhu Confidential. So anyway, that is it, and I think I will make this the outro too. Might as well just wrap things up. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Jason and Joe, for your calls. Thank you to my players who kind of make these games as fun and interesting and ongoing as they are. And yeah, if you want to comment on anything that I've said or comment on the games that I've given you, like recap as spoiler free as possible, um, then shoot me a line. You can leave me a message on the Anchor website. You can leave me a message through my SpeakPipe account, which is linked in the show notes. You can also record a message or type out a message, send me an email message and send that to gmologist@gmail.com, or drop me a message on the various Audio Dungeon Discord, send me a direct message through that platform. So thank you, TJ Drennan, for the intro and outro music. Thank you, Amy Lee, for the clip cover art. And thank you all for listening again. And I'll talk to you soon.